At this time, we need the Class 3 Berkshires to start coming to the ring, please. That would be Class 3 Berks. Start coming to the ring. All right, folks, if I could have your attention, the large overhead doors at basically the northeast end of the building. We have people that are parked in front of those doors. We need you to move, please, because we've got other folks that need to back in and unload at those doors. Once again, at the northeast end of the building, if you are parked in front of the overhead doors, please move your vehicles.
Well, good morning, folks, and certainly a privilege and honor here to be in Wichita Falls and here at the Texas National, and certainly look forward to looking at the good livestock that I'm sure that'll come through the ring, and even more importantly, the great kids that you have here at this particular event. We start off with a bang, and I think the quality is really, really deep, and I truly mean that. There's some gilts sitting down in 5 and 6 that I think you could make the argument, they could sort to the forefront of this class because they have advantages. With that being said, though, I think there's one that just becomes a combination gilt within this particular drive. Young man directly in front of me here is going to be our champion AOB. I think without a doubt, that one's the combination gilt. Like I said, in terms of combining some stoutness of feature, some hair, and some density. I like her length to height ratio really well. The angles to her skeleton read right. She's by some margin stouter, denser, and burlier than another that are left within the ring right now. And at the same time, she's better looking and just smoother built than maybe another. I don't know if it gets any easier from there. I think we've got two that come in 2 and 3 that differ, reserve, I guess, and 3 that differ drastically in terms of their type and kind. I guess there's one for me, long-term speaking, as we project some of these out, as maybe they're not just as big as some that we'll see today. I like the long-term value of the young man's on the far side of the ring to be reserved. I'll be the first to say she probably wasn't as stout as some when she first came in, and we could still stouten her up just a bit, and that's why she lands reserve in this particular class. But good looking, good built, really, really good structure. That's where she has the advantage over the gilt in 3 there that's fighting the young man and wants to leave. I absolutely love that gilt's bone, foot, hair, density. She is rugged and big in terms of her rib and center cage. For me, she just got to just coarse and plain up through the front 1/3 of her skeleton. From there, we work into a gilt that's real good looking, but just a little more refined in her feature. I'd like to stouten her up and make her just rounder in her rib and smoother in her ham loin, but real good looking up ahead of her blade, real good in terms of the angle to her shoulder. From there, we run into some gilts. I've talked to the young ladies, and I'll try to talk to these kids on down the way throughout the day and kind of tell them the differences that I see so I don't get too long-winded on the mic, but a real, real good way to start. Let's make some noise for those kiddos, please.
And here are the results from the AOB class. In fourth place, William Faust. Third goes to Cole Kate. Your champion is Holt Sims, and the reserve is Kelton Bailey. And at this time, we need Class 4 of the Berkshires to start coming to the ring. Once again, that's Class 4 Berkshire. Start coming to the ring, please. And Whitney Hefton, excuse me, Whitney. Coffee hadn't kicked in yet. Whitney Hefton, if you could please come to the ring immediately. That's Whitney Hefton. Come to the ring immediately, please.
Well, I think a real good class here. And with that being said, as good and deep as they are, I think this top pair is very good and maybe differ just a bit, but at the same time, they've got the outline, the maturity pattern, the build, the extension, and the running gear that I'm going to be after all day long today. Ultimately, the one that wins within the pair just offers a shot more uniqueness, a shot more feature in skull. You study her at the surface, her feet are big, her arm is big, up ahead of her blade. She's got a stout mug, yet she's neat in her throat latch. She pulls together a strong top line. Like I said, she's accompanied with a shot more just bone feature and kind of a more unique breeding gilt kind of look, if you will. I don't know if she's absolutely perfect. We could push her back in her blade and knee and just make her a shot more comfortable out of her front skeleton if we're going to get critical. I think that's where the Gilton 2 is just absolutely phenomenal. For one that's still good in terms of her shoulder height, she's pushed back in her blade, knee, and her front foot placement is very good. She looks like a lady from the side. I love her just length to height ratio. Her skeleton is very good. I thought when you dipped in and just studied them and really wanted to split some hairs, I didn't think she was as stout in her feature as that class winner. I didn't think she was as wild looking up ahead of her blade. I like that one a real good deal there to be in second. My compliments to that young lady. A real neat kind of breeding piece and show gilt, if you will, if in the 1 and here in 3. And she looks like she's expensive, and I mean that in a good way. This thing's giant in her footwork and bone work. She's got a stout skull. She looks like a barra-maker in terms of just her moderation of frame and her length of body. For me, young man, we just got to change that one skeleton. She wants to kind of get U-necked up there, and then from there back, she wants to get too rigid in her spine. If she relaxes and mellows and becomes more comfortable in her top line and her skeleton long-term and does the right thing, man, that one's got some very neat kind of pieces there in 3. Young man got the most out of her. Just like to change her a bit there from a skeletal perspective. Same goes for the young lady that comes in next. Did just an awesome job getting the most out of this particular gilt. Stout, burly, big muscled, very shapely when you get right in behind him. Step off to the far, and it's pretty easy to see. We just got to tie that one's neck and blade better from a skeletal quality perspective. But again, give credit where credit's due. Where she's good, I think she's very good. Good class of those Berkshires. My compliments to all those kiddos.
And here are the results from the Class 3 Berkshires. In fourth place, Caitlin Kirby. Third goes to Kane Brenton. Second is Sarah Albus. And first goes to Reese Mabry. And I need to make a correction because I made a mistake in announcing the results of the AOBs. The reserve was Cole Kate. And once again, I apologize for that. Cole Kate is your reserve in the AOB class. And at this time, we need first and second from Class 3 Berks to come back to the ring for the championship drive. Once again, that's first and second from Berkshire Class 3. Please come to the ring.
Well, again, quality is good within this particular class, and I think there's one that just looks like a generator and looks like she's has some extreme kind of breeding value, if you will. Young man directly in front of me's got one that's so stout in her skull, so stout in her arm, and round in her body shape. You take her to the surface, and she's big in her feet. She's got a big tail root, and then maybe she's not just the absolute EST when you get off to the side, but her height to length ratio is right. Everything fits together. Plenty good enough in this one. Her skeleton stays good enough with the cards that are dealt. I think a very, very neat kind of gilt here to go ahead and win this particular class. Young lady in yellow, I had you winning at one time because I thought, man, you could make the argument that this is the best structured one within the the initial pair, if you will. And you get behind her, and she's still accompanied with some pin width, some stifle shape, and some muscularity. Unfortunately, you can't just tie into her from the side. I said my class winner's maybe not perfect in that regard, but you step off to the far, and this gilt here in second needs to hook up in her ham loin just a bit better. She gets a little rounder out of her rump. Young lady did a very, very good job, though, and I think that's a neat gilt in terms of combining some skeletal width, some muscularity, and keeping skeletal integrity in check. Young lady in three, if we could just give your gilts just 20 pounds of physical fill, I think she may be able to win this class. I think that's a good-looking gilt that's running gear, and just genuine width and muscularity is very, very good. She's got the extra extension, the extra height, and the lateness and maturity to make a big one. Her skin and hair is just absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, in a big breeding gilt setting like this, as we start to, getting into some of these heavier weight gilts, they just have to have more body and more physical fill, just to present a more balanced maternal kind of look when you step off to the profile. But like I said, skin and hair, freshness up front, muscularity, feet and legs, all very, very good on that gilt. Maybe she just came to the show and didn't want to cooperate the best from a feed bucket perspective, but a very, very neat kind of gilt there to be in three. A very muscular kind of female comes in next. I told this young lady her skin and hair and just, her presentation of this particular piece of livestock is very good. You get on top of her, she's maxed out in terms of the shape and freshness that she does have. She goes away incredibly square and true in that regard. For all the power she has up high, young lady, I'd like to stouten her in her foot size and bone work, and then much like the gilt that precedes her, just a place ahead of her, we need to drop her in her rear rib and flank, and if we were to do that and make those changes, I think she would balance just a bit better. Again, a very deep class. We haven't seen a bad pig yet. Kids are working their tails off. My compliments to all of them and their families.
And here are your results from Class 4 Berkshires. In fourth place, Jenna Locke. In third place, Emma Ott. Second goes to Farrell Wilkinson, and first place is Cooper Homan. And at this time, we need Class 5 Chester Whites to start coming to the ring. Once again, that's Chester Whites, Class 5. Start coming to the ring, please.
Well, we get these four back out here, and I think all represent quality kind of livestock, and yet at the same time come to us in lots of different shapes and sizes and types and kinds, and you'll hear me say that throughout the day a lot today. I think in the industry, regardless of what breed we're talking about right now, we've made as many wild pieces and different types and kinds as ever before, and I've always been a fan and a true believer that I think breeding value, quality, and just elite kind of pieces comes in lots of different shapes and sizes and types and kinds, and I'm perfectly okay with that. I think all four of them represent quality livestock like I talked about. I told you the differences that I've seen within those particular classes. For me, the Grand and Reserve are probably just the most far-reaching. There's one that's just probably a little bit more my speed in terms of stepping off to the side of her and offering a wow kind of neat-looking image from the side, but at the same time, it's still accompanied with some feature. The Reserve is one that just looks like a generator, in my opinion, in terms of hair, in terms of density, rib, and bulk. Again, they don't look like each other. They're my two favorite. In my opinion, young lady comes out of Class 1 is going to be our champion. Young man out of Class 2, you'll be Reserve.
And we need Baylor Bennett at the ring right now, please. That's Baylor Bennett. Come to the ring right now. And here are your results from the Berkshires. Your champion is Reese Mabry, and the reserve is Cooper Homan. And right now we need Class 6 of the Chester Whites to start coming to the ring. Once again, that's Class 6 Chester Whites. Please come to the ring.
Well, I think a real good class, and at the same time, one of those particular classes, I don't know if you need to drive them and just overthink it. There's one that's got a very good handle on this particular drive, in this judge's opinion today. Good looking, stout featured, looks like she's still on her way up. I like that gilt a real good deal to go ahead and win this particular class. Again, like that class winner, but as good as she is, this one in second certainly is certainly no slouch. Maybe not just as wild in terms of her look up front as that impressive class winner, but I think checks a lot of boxes. And in this particular breed right now, that's hard to do. I think a good structured gilt here that's length to height ratio is very good. She pulls together a strong top line. Again, she's not as freaky like in terms of her feature or look up front as that class winner, but I think a real nice gilt there to be in second. My compliments to that young lady on a job well done. Young lady here directly in front of me, you're going to be 3, and if you want to argue that this one could be second, long-term speaking, I guess I wouldn't argue, because that one resembles my class winner in terms of shoulder height, in terms of her elevation, her elegance up front. Again, another one that's on her way up, and if she does the right things in terms of rib and flesh and bulking up, I think could be very good. In today's ring setting, today's show ring setting, for me, she just needs more rib, needs more fluff, and needs more horsepower to get any higher. Again, a good ribbed, good bodied one here comes in 4 to round out the class, and certainly ran into 3 high-quality gilts ahead of her. I like this gilt shoulder width and just blade width. Her spread and dimension up high is very good. Still one that's accompanied with some skeletal width. She just falls out of bed, bud, just a bit in terms of her balance from the side. Very nice job. Well done, though. My compliments to those 4 kiddos.
And here are your results from Class 5 of the Chester Whites. In 4th place, Colt Rowerson. 3rd place goes to Bailey Coker. In 2nd place, Kinsler Jingo. And 1st place goes to Avery Mabry. And at this time, we need 1st and 2nd place from Class 5 Chester White to come back to the ring for the championship drive. Once again, that's 1st and 2nd from Class 5 Chester White. Please come back to the ring.
Well, I think a real good place to go ahead and get started here. And this one that wins, I think, is just bulletproof within this particular class in terms of combining some skeletal width and some power and stoutness on a flexible kind of skeleton. Her length of hip and the way that she utilizes her hind leg, grabs the ring surface and goes is as good as maybe anything we've seen today. You know, is she just the tallest shoulder and the latest maturing, and where she ends up in terms of head, neck, and crest, if we're going to make her just absolutely perfect, those are maybe some questions, but without a doubt, an incredibly high quality, well presented, well driven one here to go ahead and win this particular class. Just from a build, balance, and quality perspective, and I know those are kind of broad terms, but in terms of those areas, this Gilton 2 falls in the second hole very comfortably, in my opinion. I like this one's height to length ratio very well. You know, in relation to that class winner, she's not as big in her features, she's not as stout in her bone work. She too could maybe be just a notch better in terms of her crest up ahead of her blade. That's a big chested, wide skeleton kind of gilt, though, that's still height to length ratio, and the way she balances from the profile is very good. Gilton 3 has some neat kind of pieces, and unfortunately just doesn't blend it together quite as well as I'd consider ideal. Stout in her mug, awesome in her forearm, big in her foot size, and stoutness of feature. Her squareness and just width and you know, genuine power from behind is awfully good. You step off to the profile, and she gets a little longer in her length of body in relation to her profile. She maybe wants to run downhill just a bit. If we can make her balance and blend together just a bit better from the side, I like that gilt stoutness and the pieces that she has very well. Excuse me. Young lady in 4's got a muscular kind of gilt that I think is very genuine and opened up, and unfortunately she's not just the softest in her center, and that's why she ends up 4th in this particular class. With time and maturity and maybe some feed bucket you know, help, I like this gilt's long-term you know, aspects in terms of her look up front. She's a muscular gilt. In today's setting, she just needs more body and more rib. From there, we work into some gilts that maybe just fall out of bed just a bit from a structural perspective, but a very good class of these chesters. Let's put our hands together for those exhibitors, please.
And here are the results from Chester White Class 6. In 4th place, Shancy Scott. 3rd place goes to Presley Elston. 2nd place is Jenna Locke. And 1st place is Hensley Howards. And at this time, we need Class 7 Duroc to start coming to the ring. That is Duroc Class 7. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, I think a real good set of these Chesters, and I know that sounds like a broken record already, but the quality's been real, real good, and we get these four out here, and very, very pleased as a show judge in terms of the quality and the way that it presented. Kids are getting the most out of them. And it's nothing to take away from the two gilts that landed second in those particular classes, but these two class winners are very, very good, in my opinion, and I know we can all stand around ringside as breeders and hog show pig enthusiasts and break them all down and critique them, and at the end of the day, they're both very, very good, and if you don't think so, then obviously you haven't been around this breed very much as of late, because it's tough to put them together. And as good as both of them are, I think they actually hurt each other just a bit out here, because they differ drastically in terms of what they bring to the forefront and the quality that they do offer. There's one that's just wild built and takes an incredible photo, I'm going to guess, when she heads to the backdrop. There's one that's just so wide, skeleton, so round ribs, so long hipped, and so flexible. Ultimately, when push comes to shove, in my opinion, there's one that's more opened up. She's bigger in her chest, bigger in her pin, longer in her hip, and utilizes her hind leg just more accordingly. She's probably not as much my kind in terms of just shoulder height and wildness of look up front, but she's dang good in my opinion, and is going to be champion today. Young lady right here is going to be our champion. Young lady comes out of Class 1 is going to be our reserve.
And your champion, Chester White, is Hensley Howards. And the reserve is Avery Mabry. And at this time, we need a Class 8 Duroc to start coming to the ring. That's Duroc Class 8. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, nice class of these reds, and I told this young lady don't feel bad for dropping her whip. I actually fell in the middle of the ring, so that's definitely more embarrassing. Young lady in the red, you got a good handle on this particular class, in my opinion. One of the wider skeleton gilts within the initial trio, yet I think her just comfort level and the way that she balances and pieces together from the profile is awfully, awfully good. The bend, flex, and reach she has out of her hind leg for a Duroc that's got that big a pin set and that much stifle shape working in her is very, very good. If we're going to get ultra critical, we could maybe clean her up in the top side of her crest. Long-term speaking, just a bit. I think that'll have to be managed. But I think that's a small tree and a large force. A nice kind of place to go ahead and start in this particular drive. A wild-looking one here to land in second, just in terms of stoutness of skull, neatness of throat latch. She's a big, shapely, muscular kind of gilt that's got spread and dimension when you get right up on top of her. I thought in this particular drive, at a breeding gilt setting, she came across just a little flatter and just more generic in terms of her rib shape when you get right up on top of her. She too, as she drives right at you, could be widened and squared up just a bit in her front foot placement. Man, you talk about one that would take a wild photo from the profile, crazy looking up front. If that one does the right things, long-term speaking, I think she has a very, very high kind of ceiling and a neat kind of future ahead of her. An interesting one to land in three, and a young lady, I just couldn't get this one to quite piece together and be fault-free enough to get any higher in this particular class. But when you study her for the quality and the good that she has, I think she's a neat kind of gilt, stout in her mug, very top line. She's got a big tail root that's cranked up there where it needs to be. Her hind leg is very, very functional. Unfortunately, she drives right at you. She has to be better in her knee as she approaches you. And then from the profile, we need to strengthen her in her top line just a bit. Again, a good top trio there. My compliments to all those young ladies. From there, we work into 4, 5, 6. Gilts that certainly offer some quality. Maybe just fall out of bed just a bit from the extras aspect. But kids are working their tail off and are doing a good job. Let's make some noise for all them, please.
And here are your results from Duroc Class 7. In fourth place, Laney Swain. Third place, Gentry Locke. Second place goes to Kennedy Hicks. And in first place, Lily Cooper. And at this time, if we could have Duroc Class 9 start coming to the ring. That's Class 9 Duroc. Start coming to the ring, please.
Young lady in the green is going to win this particular class, and I think does so with ease. And she maybe doesn't come without flaws. We could push her back in her shoulder and knee and fix her in her elbow pocket just a bit. But man, I think that's a neat kind of pig in terms of combining some extra skeletal width and stoutness on a flexible kind of hip and hind leg and a wild look up front. She's got a tiny, cute kind of head above her shoulder, or above ahead of her shoulder blade. Excuse me. She's right in terms of her length of body. She's got a strong top line, yet it's flexible. And like I said, in this particular class with the cards that are dealt, I think she's as good in terms of her structure as any, and certainly has some wild kind of pieces. Just a solid, good kind of gilt to go in second that unfortunately doesn't have the wild pieces as our class winner, but I think just good from a skeletal perspective. She's got the ability to throw her head above her shoulder blade and drive at a comfortable level. Another one that's strong on her top line, yet flexible, utilizes her hind leg. Very, very good out here. In relation to that class winner, she's obviously not as elegant or as attractive ahead of her blade. You get behind her and she wants to play out just a bit in relation to that winner, but a solid, good kind of structured gilt there to be in second. I like a lot of things about the one and third, and if you like her up higher or lower, I guess I wouldn't argue either way. Short back, tall shoulder, real good looking, good skin and hair. Unfortunately, when asked to go and travel at a faster rate out here, she gets too choppy and restricted off either end of her skeleton. We need to lay her back in her shoulder blade and make her longer out of her rump to make her just more flexible off either end. Young lady got the most out of her, though. My compliments to her and her family. From there, we're working at some gilts that, man, they're close in terms of the pieces that they offer. Maybe just fall out of bed just a bit from a balance or structural integrity perspective. Interesting class of reds. My compliments to all those kiddos and their families getting them ready.
And here are your results from Duroc Class 8. In fourth place, Ella Meyer. Third place is Jenna Locke. In second place, Riley Elston. And first place goes to Shelby Albus. Now, I know everyone here knows all the benefits that come from shows like this. And let me tell you, shows like this don't happen without great sponsors, and we want to start recognizing some of our sponsors here at the Texas National Stock Show. We've got Second to None Awards, Adams Fab, Primo Feeds, the Law Office of David Chumley, Delm Prevailing Genetics, Flatland Show Pigs, and Punch. Thank you to these sponsors, and we've got more to recognize in a few minutes. And at this time, we need Duroc Class 7, first and second place, and first and second place from Duroc Class 8. Come back to the ring for the championship drive. Once again, that's first and second from both Class 7 and Class 8 of Duroc. Come to the ring, please.
Well, I think a good class of these bigger reds, and certainly the deepest class that we've seen today. I think we weighed 5 of them, and could have weighed a few more, I believe, just from a quality perspective. At the same time, there's one I just keep coming back to in terms of her ability to combine some stoutness of features, some skeletal width, and put it on a very, very neat kind of look when you get off to the side of her. Stout in her mug, good in her chest floor, pulls together just an impeccable kind of strong top line, yet she's flexible, and off her skeleton off either end, she's got a big tail root that's cranked way up there, and as she drives directly away from you, her squareness of pin set to her hock to her rear foot is absolutely incredible. I think there's some give and take between 2 and 3. Ultimately, there was one that's just more genuine and more opened up in her lower skeleton. The young lady in 2's got one that has that advantage, good in her chest, good in her knee. You step off to the profile, and even though I'd like to lengthen her out of her rump, I still think her height to length ratio reads very, very good. I love this one's just proportionality from the profile. She's neat looking up ahead of her blade. In relation to that one that falls is going to fall into 3, like I said, she's more genuine in her lower skeleton, and from the profile, I thought her height to length ratio balanced just a bit better. For me, we got to lengthen her out of her rump and make her just more athletic out of her hind leg if we're going to go ahead and roll with her in this particular class. Young man in 3, you've got one that's wild looking ahead of her blade. She's shapely up high. She offers some neat kind of pieces. She's still got a bendy, flexible kind of hind leg. For me, we just got to fix her in her knee and chest as she comes right at you. And of the initial 3, I read her to be the flattest in her rib shape and just the most generic as far as her body shape is concerned. But I like that one a good deal. Young man did a very nice job. I think a very, very neat one here coming in 4, and I'm sure some like her higher, some like her lower, and I could listen to either of those things, to be honest. Very, very hard to ignore kind of animal, though, in my opinion. Stout in her skull, wild looking ahead of her blade. Her length of body and just moderation of frame reads like a barrowmaker, if you will. Her spread up high is very, very good. Her spread from behind is good. Her skin and hair is awfully good and on point in this particular drive. For me, we just got to lengthen her off either end of her skeleton. she's too jammed up in that regard, and it starts to kind of limit her mobility as far as her hind leg is concerned. But give credit where credit's due. Where she's good, I think she's good as anything that we have in this particular class. A big chested one that offers a neat kind of look. Ahead of her blade comes in next, still long in her hip and utilizes her hind leg. Relatively good out here. I just thought when you dipped in and started studying the details, she was more refined in her feature. I'd like to pick her up on her front pasterns, stout in her jawbone. Just couldn't get her to piece together quite well, but where she's good, I think she's awfully good. Good group of those Reds. My compliments to all those kiddos on a job well done.
And before I announce the results from Class 9 of Duroc, it's time to make my announcement that if I mispronounce anybody's name, feel free to come up and tell me. We want to get that right. So moms and dads, keep that in mind because I might need help with one here. Here we go. Results from Class 9 of Duroc. In fourth place, Rylan Corbin. Third place is Cash McCamey. Second place is Hadley Reeves. And in first place, Madison Friday. And we have some more trucks that need to be moved outside the large overhead doors at the northeast end of the building. That's the back of the building as we are set up right now. We've got 2 Dodge trucks that need to be moved immediately. License plate on one is TPG 9355, and the other one has a license plate of Benzco. We need you to move your trucks immediately, please. And at this time, we need Class 10 Hampshires to start coming to the ring. Once again, that's Class 10 Hampshires. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, very, very pleased with the quality that we have in front of us here as we get these 3 class winners out here. And like I said, in every breed drive, I'm not going to say they're all cookie cutter like, but I've never been a fan of thinking that they absolutely have to be. I think different shapes and sizes work, and quality and breeding value come in a lot of different shapes and forms and sizes. And with that being said, I do think there's some things to weigh out and think about because there's some drastic differences where these 3 are at the feeding stage or their feeding point, and obviously some of them are probably a little more towards 12 o'clock or they're in game, and some are maybe a little more on their way up. But I think when you throw that out and just study them all as individuals, there's one that just becomes the most unique in terms of body shape, in terms of proportionality, in terms of combining some skeletal width on a very flexible kind of skeleton. Young lady comes out of Class 1. I'll have our champion. We dropped that second in, and I think she fits in the mix incredibly well. Like I said, in that particular class, maybe not perfect, but offers a very, very high ceiling. In relation to that champion, she's probably cleaner on the top side of her crest. Her throat latch, jawbone, and just arrogant look ahead of her blade becomes very, very hard to ignore. And she's still accompanied with some foot size and stoutness of feature. Again, I said we could tweak her in an area or two, but she comes out here, and I think if that one does the right things, and she absolutely could, long-term speaking, I like that one a good deal. She's going to be our reserve day. Let's congratulate her.
And here are your final results for the Jurox. Your champion is Lily Cooper, and the reserve is Kennedy Hicks.
Well, went ahead and weighed 5 in this particular class, and I think regardless of breed, I think the depth of quality in this particular drive is very, very good, but very comfortable with the 5 that we have, and that's nothing to take away from these that are out here. We're going to go ahead and send them to the back of the barn. Maybe just don't piece together quite as well or as good in their structure, maybe as I'd consider ideal. Again, a very good class here. Though, let's make some noise for these kiddos as they head back.
And at this time, if we could have Class 11 Hereford start coming to the ring, please. That is Hereford, Class 11, start coming to the ring. to, at this time, recognize our other sponsors. Once again, folks, these sponsors help make these shows happen. So give them some support wherever you can. The remaining sponsors are Purple Circle, RW Genetics, Sullivan Supply, and if you need any show supplies, they've got a fully stocked trailer right here, right now. West Texas Genetics, Wintex Farms, and Young Livestock.
Well, I think a nice class of these Hampshires, and I know it's early in the day, but I think it seems like every single breed, I've said this, lots of different shapes, sizes, types, and kinds, and with that being said, there's one that came in early, and I thought just had a very good handle on this particular drive. For a Hampshire female, she's accompanied with plenty of width, power, and stoutness with the cards that are dealt. At the same time, I think she sets the standard just from a comfort level out here. The angles to her skeleton read to be the best. Very, very mobile as far as her feet and legs are concerned. And then you get up on top of her, and she's by some margin just the roundest in her rib, the best in her center cavity, has the most spread up high, and when you get behind her, is very dimensional and stays square and comfortable. Again, young man there in the black's got a very good handle on this particular class, and I guess he'll end up being your champion Hampshire. From there, I think there's some give and take, and again, drastic differences. I guess the one that intrigues me more within the pair in terms of just a wild look, a neat kind of build, and a little more unique looking, just in terms of her silhouette, is a young man here directly in front of me. She's going to be our reserve, and I'll be the first to say I'd like to relax her in a rear pasture and an ankle and make her just push her hock and just rear foot farther past her tailhead there as we ask her to go and drive out here in the ring surface. But at the same time, man, she's awfully hard to ignore. Wild looking up front. I love her length of body, her shape and freshness, and just genuine width and muscle, I think is by some margin better than the gilt that lands in 3. The 1 in 3, again, another one that's hard to ignore for opposite reasons. Her just center body and readiness today is very, very good. Her skin and hair is on point. The angles to her hip and hind leg are very, very good. For me, she gets just a little more concerning in terms of where she's at. From a fluff perspective, I like to peel her down just a bit and give her just a shot more hard shape when you get right up on top of her. But again, a comfortable gilt that's linked to height ratio matches. Her skin and hair and just fit job is absolutely on point. Young lady got the most out of her. My compliments to her and her crew getting them ready. A tall-shouldered, short-backed gilt comes in next that just needs to be more comfortable and more athletic off either end of her skeleton. We could stouten her up in her feature. Again, strong in her top line, good in her length of body, and good about her look up front. The gilt that rounds out the class is wild looking up front, shapely up high, big legged. For me, just needs to be more coordinated and more collected about how she utilizes her hip and hind leg. Good group of those Hampshires. My compliments to all those kiddos.
And here are your final results for the Hampshire class. Your champion is Jackson Kane, and the reserve is Brody Hurley. And we need Class 12 land race to start coming to the ring. That is Class 12 land race. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, nice class, these Herefords. And the one that wins, I'm not going to say is maybe just bulletproof in terms of being complete. She could be just tweaked in an area or two. But, man, that one looks the most hard or the hardest to make, if you will. Shoulder height, look, presence, and elegance up front is very, very good. She pulls together a strong top line. She's long out of her rump and utilizes her hind leg more than acceptable enough with the cards that are dealt. A gilt that's still on her way up, and I know I've talked about a lot of that today. But we're judging some of these gilts that are certainly going to go on and show in a couple months from now. I think that one offers a very, very high ceiling. From there, on the other end of the spectrum, we got the gilt that is going to go in second, and one that's just so bold in her body and so dimensional, so powerful from every angle. Obviously compared to our class winner, I didn't see this one to be as attractive up ahead of her blade. I didn't see her to be just as athletic about her hip and hind leg. But give credit where credit's due. Man, that one is bold-bodied, big rib, big pin set. Very, very neat kind of gilt there to be in second. Young lady on the far side of the ring, you're going to be in three. And actually, I like this gilt a good deal in terms of just the spread and dimension that she has on the top side of her skeleton. I think from a compositional perspective and where she's at, from a fluff aspect, is very, very good. For me, when you step off to the far, she gets a little more pronounced in her crest. I like to see her lengthen that one out of her rump and just make her better off either end of her skeleton as far as that is concerned. But I think where she's good and the positive attributes that she brings to the forefront, I think are very, very unique. Young lady rounds out the class with one that's very good in her center. I actually like this gilt's look up ahead of her blade very, very well. She just needs to be stouter in her feature, lengthen her out of her rump. Young lady got the most out of her, though. My compliments to those four kids.
And here are your results for the Hereford class. In fourth place is Presley Elston. In third place, Ailey Sims. Your champion is Cole Cate, and the reserve is Blakely Bottleberg.
Once again, there's a truck parked out back that's blocking the right loadout. It's called Ben's Construction, is what it says on the side. We need it moved before we have to remove it with a forklift.
And this is a reminder that all champions and reserves need to get your pictures taken over at the photo booth. And those photos are being taken by Alicia Castaneda. And you can see those pictures and probably purchase them, I'm guessing, as well, at aliciacastanedaphotography.pixieset.com. And at this time, we need Class 13 spots. That's spots, Class 13. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, very, very, very good class of land races, and you know, it doesn't even not just because they're land races, good stock, regardless. But this one that wins just becomes the most unique, in my opinion, for one of any breed. Like I said, short backed, yet offers extension off either end of her skeleton. I don't think there's any question in this judge's mind. She's the EST in class in terms of feature, in terms of width, in terms of rib, in terms of muscle, and then the fact that she's got the most reach and the most comfortable hind leg. I think she became the most difficult to go ahead and beat in this particular class. A neat kind of pig, and I'm not going to say she's the maybe freshest one out here, but at the same time, I thought she was equally as fresh as the gilt that lands in second. This one in seconds, the bigger outline, later maturing of the initial pair. I like this one's shoulder height. I like this one's foot size and stoutness of feature incredibly well. One that still comes at you good and square and true in her chest and knee and front foot placement. I love her length of hip and the way she utilizes her hind leg. For a breeding gilt at this stage of the game, when we start studying some of these bigger ones, I wish she was just rounder in her body shape. I wish she was deeper and just more full in her rear rib and flank. And if we were to do that, I think she would balance just a bit better in terms of her underline. But man, she's stout featured. She's square built. She's good looking ahead of her blade. Awesome in terms of her top line. Young lady did a very, very good job. Young man in three, man, you ran into a very, very competitive class. In my opinion, this is your champion land race at a lot of shows you go to. Dead level on her top, good looking ahead of her blade. One that's still comfortable and square in terms of the way that she comes right at you. For me, as the drive wore on, you stepped off to the side of her of the initial three. It read her to be the most refined in her feature, the smallest in her rear foot, and then I'd like to make her just a shot more athletic, a shot more comfortable, and push her hock and rear foot just a bit farther past her tail set. Man, from there forward, though, that one's good looking. Her skin and hair is dressed to impress. Her physical feel is right. Young man got the most out of her. My compliments to him. I like a lot of things about this 1 and 4. She's the most wild looking up front in terms of neatness of neck and prominence of jawbone and throat latch. Her skeletal width and muscle is very, very good, almost to the point where probably it takes away from her just a bit. I'd like to pull her back inside her elbow pocket, pull her back in her hock, and make her just a shot more reasonable about her just width and power that she has when you get right in behind her. Man, that's a unique kind of gilt there to be in fourth. Very, very competitive class there. We just got to tweak her in an area or two, but where she's good, she's awfully, awfully good. From there, we run into some gilts that certainly offer some pieces, maybe just need to be a little better from a structural integrity perspective. Got some that maybe just fall out of bed just a bit from a power aspect. Very, very good group of these land races, and I truly mean that. Just my opinion today. My compliments to all those kiddos and their families on a job well done.
And here are your final results for Class 12 land race. In fourth place, we have Emma Williamson. Third place goes to Landon Barnett. Your champion is Cash McCamey, and the reserve is Kate Cooper. And it is time for Class 14 Spot to start coming to the ring. Once again, that Spot, Class 14. Start coming to the ring, please.
Good class of these spots, and I think there's a pair of them that offer just a shot more shag, feature and uniqueness, and do it with flexible kind of rear legs. I'll be the first to say I'd like to stouten the jawbone of the gilt that wins this particular class. As much of a sucker as I am for a good-looking one, sometimes it'll take away from maybe some skull and stoutness of jaw. Sometimes that's maybe the case here, but man, that one's awfully hard to ignore. A big-chested gilt that balances incredibly, incredibly well from the side. Her presentation, skin and hair, and fit job is absolutely incredible. She's got a big square hind leg that's very, very flexible. She's hard to make. She looks expensive. I like that one a good deal to go ahead and win this particular class. We could set her back in her elbow pocket and relax her in that regard just a bit. Actually, the one in second, it maybe becomes just a bit concerning in that regard as well. I love this gilt in second. Stoutness of jawbone. She fixes our winner in that regard. She, too, is neat about her throat latch and offers a very feminine, high-quality look ahead of her blade. She, too, is big-footed and stout in her rear bone. She's got the length of step and the range of motion from behind that I'm after. I couldn't get her to blend together or piece together quite as well from the side as our class class winner. She's a little harsher, and her center body doesn't blend together quite as well on her top line as our class winner. If she fleshens and does the right things long term, I think that one's awfully, awfully good. A neat kind of gilt here in 3 in terms of skeletal width and just product and the muscularity that she offers. I think, man, she's very, very good. Best that we have within that particular top trio in terms of upper rib shape and the spread and dimension that she does have. Unfortunately, she gets just a little rounder built off either end of her skeleton. I'd like to tie her neck higher on the top side of her shoulder. She's a little shorter about her rump structure, a little coarser and rounder in her hock shape when you get right in behind her. In a lot of settings, though, that's a class-winning kind of spot gilt. Unfortunately, she just ran into 2 juggernauts there ahead of her. A neat gilt comes out next. Told the young lady, real good looking, just needs more feature. From there, we run into some that become just a bit concerning from a structural build perspective. Very, very good class of spots. So my compliments to all those kiddos.
And here are the results from Class 13 spot. In 4th place, Piper Childress. 3rd place is Jagger Monroe. 2nd place goes to Miller Beam. And in 1st place, Hensley Howards. Now, in addition to getting some supplies with Sullivan Supply, also need to know that we've got Champion's Choice oil here today. And in addition to that great oil, you can also pick up some premium shavings if you need them. And at this time, we need 1st and 2nd from spot Class 13. Come back to the ring for the championship drive. Once again, that's 1st and 2nd from Class 13 of spot. Please come back to the ring.
Apologize for taking just a little extra time, but again, sometimes it takes a minute to sort through lots of differences. Again, lots of different types and kinds in this particular class. There's one that just screams high quality, though, in my opinion. When you step off and really just evaluate quality, that one on the far side of the ring is very, very unique. If we're just going to line them up and take a picture, that one may be as good as we've seen all day. Has the ability to throw her head above her shoulder blade and drive at a comfortable level. For a tall-shouldered, good-looking one, she still comes at you good in her chest, knee, and front foot placement. You step off to the side. Her height-to-length ratio is awesome. And even though she's not the most massive one within this particular drive, when you get right in behind her and compare her to the gilt that falls in second, she's by some margin bigger in her pin, has more stifle shape and just more muscularity, and drives away with just more rear feature. I like the gilt in second, long-term speaking, in terms of shoulder height, lateness, and maturity. Again, she's another one that I've talked about today. I still think she's on her way up, and I mean that in a good way. I think when this one gets at a heavier weight, she's going to look awesome. Good in terms of her head and neck carriage, pulls together a strong yet flexible kind of top line. I thought in relation to that one that, was a class winner, she wasn't as expansive or as muscular. When you got right in behind her, I didn't see her to be as stout in her overall feature. Just in terms of feature mass and looking like a brood sow, young man in third's got one that's really, really unique in that regard. Stout in her mug. She's as stout and just as burly and dense as anything that we have in this particular class. You get on top of her, she gets a little more bland and descriptive in terms of her muscularity up high. And then the real issue that she falls into third. She just wanted to go a little more east and west as far as her structure is concerned. Maybe then I'd consider ideal. If the Gilton 4 will flesh in and body down and do the right things, I think she's got a high ceiling, long-term speaking. She's a wide skeleton gilt that's got muscularity up high. She drives away incredibly opened up, square and true from behind. You step off to the profile, and for her to blend and balance better in a breeding gilt setting, she just has to have more physical feel, rear rib and flank. If she does that, like I said, with time, I think she could be awfully good on down the road. From there, we run into a gilt that's wide skeleton, a little more refined in her feature in relation to being a little thicker neck, but big up high and very, very flexible in terms of her skeleton. Certainly a high-quality class. My compliments to all these kiddos and their families on down the way.
And here are your results from Class 14 spot. In fourth place, Caitlin Kirby. Third place is Jackson Kane. Second place goes to Talon Luke. And first place is Kaylee Hatcher. And at this time, we need Class 15 of the Yorkshires to start coming to the ring. That is Yorkshire Class 15. Please start coming to the ring.
Well, the spot show was good, and anybody that's trying to raise them right now knows there's not a ton of options out there sometimes to try to mate them to and get them better, long-term speaking. And I compliment all the breeders and feeders and kids behind the spotted show today because I thought the quality was deep, and honestly, there was gilts on down the line, 6, 7, 8, whatever it may be, that had, some very neat pieces. Maybe they weren't perfect, but I thought the breeding value and just the ceiling height long-term speaking was very, very neat within the spotted breed. Ultimately, I'm very happy with the 4 that we have left out here, but there's 2 of them that offer a shot more hair, bone, density, skeletal width, and at the same time are very, very flexible, athletic, and comfortable about the way they utilize their hind legs. They're neat looking, they're wild looking, they still are good in terms of their structures. Young lady and young man that come out of Class 1 going to be our champion reserve.
And the champion of the spot breed is Hensley Howards, and the reserve is Miller Beam. And we had something turned in over here at the announcers table earlier. We're acting kind of as the lost and found for the show. It's a small bag. It's mostly black. It also has orange and red colors in it. And it's got a label on it. I'm not going to tell you what the label is because if it's yours, you're going to need to do that up here. But we've got it up here at the announcers table. So if you lost a small black bag that is mostly black but also has some red and orange in it, we've got it up here at the announcers table. And at this time, we need Yorkshire Class 15 to start coming to the ring. That's Yorkshire Class 15. Start coming to the ring.
young man in the red, Skilt's going to win this particular class, and there's no doubt in this judge's mind. That one just sets the standard with the cards that are dealt. From a structural build and skeletal quality perspective, she's a wide, square-chested gilt that when you step off to the profile is flexible in her top line, yet it balances, and everything fits together incredibly well. She drives away very square and true in that regard. Again, I'm not going to tell you she's the EST of the drive, but I think without a doubt she is the best in terms of combining some skeletal width on a flexible kind of skeleton. Young man in 2, you've got one that's really unique and looks like a generator, if you will, in terms of her skull and the feature that she has. She's a big armed gilt that's very stout in her mug. She pulls together a strong top line. She's got a big tail root that's cranked way up there. Young man, we just got to set her back in her shoulder and make her more comfortable out of her front skeleton. If we could do that, that's a class-winning kind of Yorkshire gilt, in my opinion, because she's opened up and square and looks high quality. She looks like she's got a high ceiling and could go on and ultimately make the next generation better. Young man in 3, if we could fix the hind leg of your gilt, man, I think she could win this class because she looks like a class winner. Otherwise, she's the big heavyweight gilt of the drive that's got a stout mug ahead of her shoulder blade, yet an elegant kind of look in that regard. She's square and good in her chest and knee as she drives right at you. Her spread, rib, and body shape up high when you get on top of her is as good as anything we have in class. Unfortunately, going away, she wants to swivel and sway and put too much weight on the outside of her hoof wall. Again, if we could fix her in that area, I think that's the class winner of the drive because where she's good, she's awfully, awfully good. Good class for them Yorkshires. Let's make some noise for all those kiddos, please.
The results for class 15 of the Yorkshires will be as follows. In 4th place, Corey Roberson. 3rd place, Wyatt Wells. In 2nd place is Miller Beam, and 1st place goes to Jagger Monroe. And at this time, we need first and second place from the previous two Yorkshire classes to get back to the ring to get ready for the championship drive.
Nice class, these Yorkshires, and ultimately, I think there's a top pair that sort to the forefront relatively quickly in terms of being the opened up gilts that are accompanied with some extras in terms of ribs, stoutness, and just the bulk that they have. They read to be the most genuine of the division or of the drive, if you will. And then within the pair, there's one of them that's just fresher about her look up front, fresher about her skin and hair, and just the way that she presents herself out here. I like this one a good deal here to my left to go ahead and win this particular class. You know, if we're going to get ultra critical on her, you know, we could lengthen her out of her rump just a bit, push her down in her jump muscle, and just make her just a shot more extended, really off either end of her skeleton. She's a wide-chested, big-backed gilt that's awesome in terms of her center. She drives away incredibly square and true from her pin set to her hock to her rear foot. A nice kind of place to go ahead and start. Again, I thought there was two of them gilts that filtered to the forefront in terms of having some skeletal width, some muscle, and some power, and this one certainly fits the bill and closely follows our winner in those areas. I thought when push come to shove and you stepped off to the profile, that gilt wasn't as good in her crest or her look up front. I didn't see her to be as square in her knee, but give credit where credit's due. That's a big armed gilt that's good in her center, much like our winner. Her spread and dimension up on the top side of her skeleton is very, very good and keeps structure in check. A nice kind of place there in that second place gilt. I like a lot of things about this one and third. Her front 2/3 are very unique in my opinion. Good in her chest, knee, and front foot placement. She offers a neat, high quality kind of look ahead of her blade. She's got the height to link ratio to make competitive kind of show bearers. Ultimately, they just have to be longer hipped and better out of their rear leg in a breeding gilt setting to get any higher. If we could change her in those areas, I think our front 2/3 is very, very unique. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got a longer bodied, later maturing gilt that looks like a big ring kind of gilt as far as the extension and lateness of maturity that she does have. She's still accompanied with some foot size, some feature, and some jawbone. For me, she just gets too long in her length of body, and it throws off her balance when you step off to the profile. She, too, if we're going to get critical, could be just a shot more athletic and a little better about the set to her hip, or hind leg, excuse me. But, man, a tall shoulder, dead level one there that I think, again, like I've said so many times, gets to a bigger, heavier weight, could be awfully good. From there, we run into some gilts. I've talked to the kids. Certainly a nice class here. I thought the quality was very deep. My compliments to all those kiddos.
And here are the results from Class 16 of the Yorkshires. In fourth place, it was the heavier entry from Paisley Oglesby. Third place is Gentry Locke. Second place is Emma Ott. And first place goes to the other entry for Paisley Oglesby. And at this time, we need Class 2 of the all-black crosses to start coming to the ring. That's Class 2 all-black cross. Please start coming to the ring.
pleased with the quality that we have out here in front of us for the Yorkshire Drive, and again, another breed here that hasn't been just the most easy probably to put together as of late. Maybe not just perfectly figured out exactly where we're headed in terms of how these things need to look sometimes, and very pleased with the 4 that we have out here. We could tweak them all in an area or two. I told you my thoughts within those particular classes, but at the end of the day, they're high quality livestock. They're presented well. The kids are getting the most out of them, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. For me, the champion's a clear-cut winner, one that does so many things right, in my opinion. The reserve, I think, is just the next best one in terms of setting, the standard from a skeletal quality perspective in relation to the class winner. She's not as stout or as opened up. We could pick her up on her front feet just a hair. But again, very, very happy with this set here. Just my opinion today, but in my opinion, young lady right here is going to be our grand. Young man that comes out of Class 1, you're going to be the reserve.
Adams Fab. Established in 2007, they build custom livestock pinning and equipment to fit all your needs. Hanger feeder rods, adjustable slam gate latches, and skirted panels. It all comes standard. Custom pins made by hand and hot dipped galvanized so that you know that they're going to last. Adams Fab is a certified TIPS vendor and can design, fabricate, and install equipment to fit all your needs. Visit adamsfablivestock.com to get started today.
Calico is going to win this class, and this is just the one I keep coming back to. And she checks the most boxes, and I think she's without a doubt the combination gilt within class in terms of when you get these ones towards the forefront of this particular drive that are wider skeleton and just more maxed out. I think she has the advantage in terms of hip and hind leg and just squareness and comfort level. She's a good built kind of female. When you step off to the profile of her, in terms of the way she gets out of her front skeleton, reach and flex is good. Her top line is flexible, yet her strength to top line and just her balance from the side is very good. You get in behind him, her squareness and stoutness is awfully hard to ignore. A nice kind of place to go ahead and get started. I like this one in second a good deal as well. She's stout in her mug. I like this one's length to height ratio incredibly well. She looks like a Boer or Barra generator just in terms of her hair, her density, and her length of back. Like I said, I don't see her to be as wide and as genuine as you got right in behind him in relation to that class winner. She too wanted to labor just a bit out of her hip and hind leg in relation to that class winner. And I know that's getting critical of a high quality kind of gilt there to be in second. One that's hairy, dense, spread is good, length of body's good, proportionality is good. Just got to tweak her in an area or two to get around that Calico to go ahead and win this particular class. I had this one in third, a little all over the board, because where she's good, I think she's awfully unique. Her forearm and front foot size is awfully hard to ignore. She's incredibly stout in her mug, yet neat in her throat latch. Her shape up high is good, yet she's honest in her breeding condition. She drives away wide, square, and true in that regard, flexible in her top line. I just couldn't get her to piece together right from a build and just a silhouette perspective from the side. She needs to flesh it, and if she does that, she'd blend her neck higher on the top side of her shoulder, fix her there in her top line as far as that is concerned. If she does the right things, long-term speaking, I like that one a good deal. Interesting class there again. We can take them how you like them. The gilt that comes in next is as broad-chested, muscular, and as stout as anything within class. I just read her to be too upright and stilty in her shoulder. She wants to, stab her hind leg just a bit more than I'd consider. Again, much like that one in second, short back, looks like a generator. She's got the hair and density that I'm after. Just needs to be more ladylike ahead of her blade and just a little more comfortable about her skeleton. Again, young lady did a very, very good job getting the most out of her. Gilt comes in next, is as flexible and good as any in that regard. Got to widen her and broaden her in terms of her base width when you get right in behind her. Gilt that rounds out the class, just needs to be around her in terms of her body. Skin and hair is on point. We could pick her up in her pasterns just a bit. Again, a very, very good group there. Just my opinion. My compliments to all those kiddos.
And here are your results for Class 5 of the Dark Crosses. In fourth place, Gentry Locke. Third place goes to Rylan Corbin. In second place, Kate Cooper. And in first place, Kaylee Andrews. And at this time, we need the first and second place finishers in each of the previous dart cross classes to come back to the ring for the championship drive. Once again, that's first and second from the previous classes of dart cross. Please come back to the ring.
I think a good class here. And again, I don't know if there's a perfect one, but if you can't appreciate the quality that we have out here in front of us, you probably don't do it on a daily basis because it's not easy to put them together right now. It never has been, and the rate we're going, we probably never will be. With that being said, I think both of these are very, very high quality. And just to make a blanket statement, they're both just incredible in terms of their chest and squareness as they drive right at you. And I'm sure they're just a bit older, and I'm okay with that. But sometimes when we feed them to these older ages, they begin to close up. up. That's not the case here. I love the look and freshness of this class winner. Big-chested, incredible about her head and just her look and attractiveness up front. She's a stout mug one yet that looks like a lady ahead of her blade. I love her length of body. I love her length of rump. The biggest advantage that I think she holds within the pair is just her comfort level and her range of motion about her hip and hind leg. You know, is she as big in her foot size and stoutness of feature as the gilt in second? Absolutely not. If you saw it from the outside looking in, good job. I did too. There is a bone difference, and at the same time, there's a flexibility, range of motion, and comfort level difference as well. I like this one to win a great deal. Again, as high as I am on the class winner, this 1 and 2 has some serious advantages over our class winner. That is an absolutely giant rear leg that is big, yet she's not just stout in terms of her rear leg. Her arm is big, her skull is stout. Her spread and dimension she has on the top side of her skeleton is awfully hard to ignore. Again, she's a good-chested, square-built one as she drives right at you, and that's hard to do. For me, as the drive wore on, she just wanted to stab her hind leg and go just a bit more east and west than I'd consider ideal. Young man got the most out of her. My compliments to him. This 1 and 3 maybe just isn't as fresh as I'd consider ideal in a show ring setting, but man, from a brood sow perspective and a generating aspect, it's awfully hard to not think that this one could go on and make the next generation better. Stout in her mug, spread up high is absolutely incredible. Her center body and dimension is awfully unique. You dip in and study her and break her down in relation to those two that precede her. Again, I didn't see her to be as fresh. She's a little more closed up in her chest and wants to come down on her pasterns just a bit, but man, her flexibility of hind leg in relation to the mass and power that she does have is awfully unique. I think a bright future from that one in the sow pen or wherever she may end up. She looks like a generator. I like the freshness, skin and hair, and just the length of body and proportionality of the gilt that comes in four. She's beautiful about her head and neck. She pulls together a strong top line. Again, she's presented it incredibly well. And like I said so many times, I like them short back, but when we do that, sometimes we limit the length of just a hip that they do have. Then sometimes they become just a little choppy in their step from behind. That's how I read this gilt. I'd like to lengthen her rump and just make her take a longer, just more athletic stride. Young lady's got her dress to impress, so like I said, skin and hair is on point. She did a very nice job. There we run into some gilts that are just beginning to show their age from a freshness perspective. We could tweak them in an area or two. I've talked to the kids on down the line. Good class. Let's make some noise for those kiddos, please.
And here are your results for Class 6 of the Dark Crosses. In fourth place, Gabby Marsh. Third place goes to Jackson Kane. In second place is Cooper Homan. And in first place goes to Cole Cherry.